In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark cold hotel room and the endlessness that you fear. Like you, I have sat at my television, bawling as Sarah McLachlan sings In the Arms of an Angel in an ASPCA promo video showing abused pets. And, like you, I have walked by homeless people panhandling on the street, trying to avoid making eye contact, hoping to not engage. Our tradition teaches that as human beings, we are created in the image of God. And yet, for some reason, it's often easier for us to feel for neglected or abused animals than for our fellow human beings, the ones who were literally commanded to love as ourselves, the ones who were taught are created like us in the divine image. Now, perhaps is this because we consider animals blameless, while with people we tend to make assumptions about poor personal choices, drug or alcohol use, mental illness, and the like. But we read in Bereshit, and God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness. They shall rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the cattle, the whole earth, and all the creeping things that creep on earth." And God created man in God's image. In the image of God, God created him, male and female, God created them. And additionally, we read in the Jerusalem Talmud that Rabbi Akiva taught that love your neighbor as yourself is the major principle of the Torah. But Ben Azai actually says that the verse, when God created man, God made him in the likeness of God, is an even greater principle because it encompasses the other. So what would it be like for us to approach life in such a way that we bring intention to seeing the divine in the face of every human being we encounter? To feeling for our fellow humans, even those we perceive as our enemies, what we feel for animals. We read this week of our ancestor Jacob preparing to see his brother Esav after more than 20 years apart. And as you'll recall, after stealing Isaac's blessing intended for Esau, Jacob fled in order to avoid his wrath. And now, a few wives, a dozen children, and massive amounts of property later, Jacob finally has to deal with his past as he learns that Esau is coming towards his camp with 400 men, seemingly to attack. Jacob sends gifts ahead, hoping to quell Esau's anger, and then takes precautions by dividing his camp into two, hoping that if one half is attacked, the other half will be able to escape. And the night before his meeting with Esau, we find the famous story of Jacob wrestling with an angel. And after Jacob emerges victorious, the angel changes his name from Jacob to Israel, hence why we are the children of Israel. The next morning, Jacob and Esau finally meet. And to Jacob's surprise, Esau is full of love for him. In his response, he says to his brother, "Ki al ken ra'iti fanecha kirot pnei Elohim." To see your face is like seeing the face of God. How do we deal with this statement? Jacob had literally just wrestled with an angel the night before. So you would think that this kind of statement would have been reserved for the divine being that he had just encountered, rather than for his very human brother. The ancient rabbis are split on how to interpret the interaction. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says, this is Jacob flattering Esau, still scared of him. Rashi believes that Jacob says this so Esau knows that Jacob has encountered angels and survived in a don't mess with me, I got angels on my side kind of way, right? And Rashi also suggests that the angel may have been Esau's guardian angel, and thus there may have been an actual likeness. Personally, I think that for the first time, Jacob was able to view Esau not as his sibling rival or nemesis, but as a full human being, created like him in the divine image and possessing infinite worth as a result. To see your face is like seeing the face of God. The Talmud teaches that the first human being, Adam, was created alone, to teach us that whoever destroys a single life, the Torah considers it as if he has destroyed an entire world. And whoever saves a single life, the Torah considers it as if he saved the entire world. And that furthermore, only one person, Adam, was created for the sake of peace amongst humankind, so that no one should say to the other, my father was greater than yours, because we all come from the same one. Now, my guess is many of you have heard this teaching before about to save a life is to save the world, right? And as Jews, we often proudly proclaim it. We shout it from the rooftops, and then we walk right by people on the sidewalk whose lives are very much at risk, often ignoring them, not treating them the way that we'd wish to be treated, definitely not treating them the way we would if they were a celebrity, often treating them with less grace than we would a stray animal. And as anyone who has gotten the silent treatment from a loved one or has been ghosted by a lover can tell you, there is next to nothing as painful for a person as feeling unseen, feeling that others don't or won't acknowledge their existence and shared humanity. So how would our way of walking in the world change if we could really begin to embrace this notion of every human being being created in the divine image? Can we strive to see each individual person as unique, beautiful, and worthy of our love? For each person we encounter, can we condition ourselves as Jews such that our initial response to every person we encounter is to want to blurt out, seeing your face is like seeing the face of God? I want to leave you with words from a poem by the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai. Once I sat on the steps by a gate at David's tower. I placed my 2 heavy baskets at my side. A group of tourists was standing around their guide, and I became their target marker. You see that man with the baskets? Just right of his head, there's an arch from the Roman period, just right of his head. But he's moving, he's moving. I said to myself, redemption will only come if their guide tells them, you see that arch from the Roman period? It's not important. But next to it, left and down a bit, there sits a man who's bought fruit and vegetables for his family. Shabbat Shalom.